Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back.
We're back.
Having a good time.
808-5548 if you want to call in. You know, I wanted to finish up that point real quick because it's an area, Chris, that really throws a lot of people.
Right, I would agree.
It really depends on what you want to use your credit for. If you're trying to apply for a loan and get a loan, it's going to be a different strategy than if you're trying to get out of debt.
Right.
If you're trying to get out of debt, hey, taking all of the money from all the different cards and rolling it all onto one card that has that 0% interest,
right,
so that you're not paying interest and you can pay it off quicker. That's smart.
Right.
That's 100% smart. Do that. Be on that. But if you're about to apply for a loan, doing that can really hurt you.
Right.
Because what happens is the credit scoring model says, what is the highest percentage of usage, debt to limit ratio?
Correct.
Right. On any card, not just all cards, but on any card. Great. These four over here, zero balance. Great. Wonderful. Oh, wait a minute. What's this one over here? 96% of the limit. That is your ratio, 96%. It doesn't care about the other four.
Right.
And now you're at 96%. That's the worst category, and 30% of your score is determined by that factor, and to the floor.
Yep.
Through the floor your score goes. Right?
I would absolutely agree.
So you can spread that out and have it evened out across all of the cards and not even change the amount you owe, but now it's great.
No, I would absolutely agree. I think that's one of the things. So
we got someone knocking on the studio door here.
We do?
What is this?
Who is that?
Hang on, I got it.
Go get it. Go get it right there.
It's Hector!
Hector Villareal.
Good morning, gentlemen.
What have you been up to, buddy?
Yeah, just stopping by the studio.
I didn't know I could
he
knock
was
that
sitting out there
hard.
for a little while. I didn't hear him.
Yeah, he was out there for a while. Wow, the cheese is getting deep in here. Hector Villareal from Lucho, my favorite clothing store in Uptown Park over in the Galleria. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you guys this morning?
Doing fantastic.
Talking about credit.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was listening to the radio show on my way out here, and you have given out some very, very valuable information.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Just in those few minutes that I was able to tune in, I learned a lot, and I fall into several of those categories running a business.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's a good point. You know, one of the things for all those who don't know, by the way, Hector Villareal, he has a clothing store called Lucho. It's an incredible clothing store right there in Uptown Park.
Thank you.
You know, we do a lot of events there. We do a lot of, marketing in that area over there with you. And let me tell you, you have just some incredible, Joe's got one of your shirts on today.
It's beautiful.
That is correct. Shoes, the women's shoes that you make are absolutely
amazing.
Incredible. Ties and shirts and just a whole array of really good items right there. But, one thing we're talking about is credit. And explain to us, because you're a small business owner. You are an owner, obviously, who's came here, who has a business, whose credit is very important for your international trading that you do associated with owning the business, especially owning a business in which you have to produce a product.
Absolutely. We design and manufacture our clothing. We actually have to go out and buy the materials, and that in order to buy that, you actually have to either come up with a cash, a credit card, or a bank loan.
Right.
So we depend heavily on financing, and listening to some of your comments and some of the people that called in about how to be a good steward of your finances, which I thought was brilliant. And that's what we really have to do. Not only are you trying to market a business, but you have to be a very good steward of your finances. I could not run my business without my bank's help.
Right.
In my case, luckily, we've been with the same banker for about 15 years now, and he knows us. But we're in a very unique situation, and we, in the past, have talked to other bankers where, as Joe said, he doesn't know who we are.
Right.
We've been in the community for 25 years, and you know I'm a good guy and I'll pay my bills, but this person doesn't know me.
Exactly.
Right.
And those credit lines are important.
And unfortunately, and this is something, and I've said this for a long time, banks are no longer banks. The old day, I grew up in Mexico, and the same thing, we talked about this before, right? It was the old days of the community bank, walking up meeting somebody,
Absolutely.
seeing that person, them knowing you and your family and your businesses, and being with you through the good times and the bad times. Because let me tell you, this economy, there's always ups and downs. Those bankers are no longer around. Those banks are very few and far between.
Absolutely.
Because the big banks now, the ones that have gotten these big conglomerates that are out there, while they serve a good purpose, they don't serve the local lending market in the way it used to be served. And I will venture to say that a bank has taken risk out of their equation, which is why I don't call them a bank anymore. Because remember, the old banking rules were, guess what? I'm going to go out there and lend money into the community, and I'm going to take a risk associated with that. And with all the financial crisis, they've taken risk out of the equation. They don't want to take anything. It's put deposit in the bank, and I'll lend you credit based upon what you've got in the bank on deposit. Well, guess what? That's not lending. That's not risk anymore. That's a securitization of a monetary means that I have. That's all it is.
That's absolutely right. And we've run into that situation on a daily basis. And anytime we have a project where we want to expand or add another product line, we have to deal with the bank and talk about those situations. Are we going to cut into our cash flow? What are we going to do? How are we going to come up with this money? Do we tap our financial resources like a line of credit or another credit card? And some of our credit cards, and anybody who runs a business knows that you have credit cards with substantial credit limits on them.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
And you must use those.
For our business owners, on that note, since we're kind of talking about this, I'll give a perfect example. When one of my first clients early on was a couple guys that owned a ticket sales company. They were a ticket sales company, a Ticketron kind of place, right?
Right.
And they were wanting us to work on their credit, look at their credit, because they had some dings and stuff on their credit that they were concerned about whether that was being reported accurately. And we looked at that and said, yeah, that's absolutely something we can work on. And they said, once we got into it, they're like, well, something I don't understand is why our credit will take such a huge swing from month to month. 1 month we'll have a really, high score, and then next month it'll drop 60, 70 points. And, so I'm like, well, let me see month to month what your reports are showing and what you've got going on. And we would look at a couple of months, and I'm like, well, there's nothing, dramatically different. Wait a minute. Your credit cards here. Tell me about your credit cards and how you're using your credit cards. I see you've got a couple different personal credit cards. They were taking their personal credit cards, and they would buy huge stocks of tickets. And they would max out the credit card and then sell the tickets. And as they sold the tickets, they would pay off the credit card. And they paid off the credit card every month.
Right.
Right? So they're like, well, I don't understand. We pay it off every month. But what happens is their reporting date and the date that they had to pay that bill were two different dates. So what happens is your bill's due on the 15th, but your date that credit card reports to the credit bureaus may have been the 7th. And so what happens is your credit card's maxed out on the 7th. It reports to the credit bureau. You're maxed out. You pay the bill off on the 15th. But for that whole month now, before the next reporting cycle comes around, it's reporting that you're maxed out on your credit cards.
That is correct.
So if a lender pulls that credit report, boom, your scores are tanked because your credit card's maxed out.
Right.
So if you're a business owner that's using a personal credit card as part of your funding for your business, which that happens all the time.
Absolutely. Right. There are very few people who cannot be in that situation.
Exactly. So if you're a business owner with a personal credit card, especially in the real estate industry, you have contractors and that type of thing who use their credit cards and credit lines for jobs so that when they can complete the job, they turn around and pay that card off. If you're in that situation, you need to be very, very aware that your balance may be reported to the bureau at a different time than when you pay that bill. And so it behooves you to get a hold of the credit card company and ask them what the credit reporting dates are for your card.
And, and one of the worst ones that we see from a mortgage side of things is American Express.
American Express, yes.
American Express, absolutely one of the worst, because a lot of times what happens is the following. American Express, for example, is the majority of the people, they pay their bills.
Yep.
At the end of each month or whatever that time frame is. The problem from a credit reporting standpoint is if you went out and spent $15,000 this month, it shows you have a $15,000 balance and a balance due of $15,000, right?
Yep.
So you come to me and you say, I want to get a mortgage. And I look at that mortgage and I say, okay, guess what? You got an American Express bill now for $15,000. And they say, yeah, but that gets paid off at the end of every month. From a mortgage side standpoint, I have to then make sure you have enough funds as part of your closing to have in reserves to pay off that $15,000. And also from a reporting standpoint, it varies. So you spent $15,000 this month, you paid it off in full. Next month you did $35,000. You're still going to pay it off in full, but guess what? Now it shows that you maxed out to $35,000.
Yep.
So you have to really understand how different credit works because not all of it's created equal.
Yep, very much so. Well, we're down to the last few minutes. I want to make sure we, since Hector stopped in here, Hector, tell folks how to find you and how to come visit the shop. I know I'm there on a regular basis, so our audience might have a chance of running into me if they
and
if
I
they
would
stop by the
highly
shop.
suggest getting over there. That is correct.
Yes.
Well, thank you. We are in Uptown Park, the Uptown Park Shopping Center that's located at 610, and that's South Post Oak and 610. And we've been there for about almost 14 years there. Like I said, we design and manufacture Italian clothing for men, and it's a custom clothing shop as well. And we've now started with women's shoes, and we have a line of women's shoes, which absolutely every woman that I know loves shoes.
Yep. They fit me great, by the way.
We have several of our Rat Pack alumni.
Yes.
Nicole, if you're out there listening, Nicole
yes,
has. I ran into her there a couple weeeks ago. Lois de Armas has a pair.
Yep.
Teresa Kennedy.
You guys have been great at bringing folks out there who haven't had the opportunity to meet us and know what we're about, and we're involved in the community, and we just feed off of each other's energy.
Well, no joke. I have 4 or 5 shirts now from your shop. Every time I wear them, 100% of the time that I wear them. In fact, one of the managers here, station manager, said made a comment about the shirt. Said, "Joe, I love that shirt. I have to start calling you Joe GQ."
That's awesome. I love that.
And no joke,
GQ Joe.
GQ Joe.
There we go. We just changed your name.
Yep, there you go. So every time I wear one of your shirts, I repeatedly get compliments on it. I love y'all's stuff. You make amazing clothes. And my wife doesn't want me to go by your store anymore.
We tell everybody, get out there, go visit. You can have a good drink on him. And more importantly, get dressed up. We talk about dressing for success. It's a great area to do so.
Every realtor needs to stop by his shop.
I would agree. One of the things is we always say every single week we end with a good quote, and this is actually no different, except this one actually has a financial twing to it, by the way. It says, some debts are fun when you are acquiring them, but none are fun when you set about retiring them.
Oh,
pretty interesting stuff right there, isn't it?
Yes.
If you want to hear more about the Real Estate Rat Pack, go out and visit us on the web, realestateratpack.com. Until next time, we are going to be out.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's
Dean,
and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.